Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Channel 2 News Bulletin. I'm Abir Mitwali. We'll start off with the headlines, followed by the news in detail. Cairo hosts a tripartite Egyptian-Jordanian-French summit on Gaza. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and his French counterpart signed strategic partnership accords. And Israeli strikes kill 17 people in Gaza, including a journalist, as Palestinians in West Bank and Jerusalem join a general strike. Welcome back. The news in detail. Cairo on Monday hosted a tripartite Egyptian-Jordanian-French summit with the participation of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, French President Emmanuel Macron, and Jordan's King Abdullah II. The summit focused on regional developments, notably Israeli military offensive in Gaza, as well as Israeli escalations in the West Bank, Lebanon, and Syria. It also discussed French and international support for the Arab plan for Gaza reconstruction. Ahead of the summit's launch, President el-Sisi posed for a memorial photo with the Jordanian and the French counterparts. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said that he and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron asserted the imperative need of the return to a ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip and the resumption of aid entry into the Strip, in line with the rejection of any displacement of Palestinians. Addressing a joint press conference with Macron in Cairo on Monday, the president also stressed the importance of the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip in coordination with France, notably in holding a conference on the reconstruction following a restoration of the ceasefire in Gaza. The president also hailed the signing of a joint declaration on the elevation of Egyptian-French relations to the level of strategic partnership as a step towards boosting joint cooperation and opening new vistas for achieving the mutual interest of the two countries and the aspirations of both peoples. The president intensified the necessity of activating deeply rooted Egyptian-French relations across all domains and enhancing French investments in Egypt. Addressing the press conference following the talks with President el-Sisi, French President Emmanuel Macron urged the lifting of Israel's blockade on humanitarian aid to Gaza. Macron said that he was strongly opposed to any displacement or annexation in the Gaza and the occupied West Bank. Macron also said that Palestinian group Hamas should have no part in governing the Gaza Strip and reiterated that his support for a reconstruction plan for the war-ravaged territory endorsed by the Arab League. Egyptian-French relations are distinguished with mutual understanding and respect in addition to close ties across different fields. These relations have also witnessed remarkable progress under President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's leadership. More in this report. A joint Egyptian-French declaration on the elevation of bilateral relations to the level of strategic partnership was signed by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and French President Emmanuel Macron. The two presidents also witnessed the signing of several agreements and memos of understanding in the sectors of transport, health, and education. We have more in the following report.
A joint Egyptian-French declaration on the elevation of bilateral relations to the level of strategic partnership was signed by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and French President Emmanuel Macron following their meeting at the Presidential Palace in Cairo on Monday. The two presidents also witnessed the signing of several agreements and memos of understanding in the sectors of transport, health, and education. This came as an Egyptian-French summit meeting took place between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and French President Emmanuel Macron in Cairo on Monday over ways of boosting bilateral ties and tackling unfolding regional issues, mainly the situation in Gaza and the West Bank. Earlier on Monday, President Sisi led a red carpet reception ceremony to the French President Emmanuel Macron upon his arrival at the Presidential Palace. President Macron began a 3-day official visit to Egypt on Sunday. This visit is Macron's fourth to Egypt in 8 years.
Israeli air attacks hit several parts in the southern and central Gaza Strip overnight, killing at least 17 Palestinians, including a journalist. One of the strikes hit a media tent outside the Nasser Hospital in the southern Khan Yunis city, sending it ablaze, killing reporter Youssef Al-Faqawi and another man. On Monday, Palestinians held a general strike demanding an end to the Gaza war. Shops, schools, and most public administrative offices were closed across the West Bank, while the commercial Salahuddin Street in East Jerusalem was empty. A coalition of the Palestinian political movements, including Fatah and Hamas, called the strike to protest the genocide and ongoing massacre of the Palestinian people. A rally was held in the center of the West Bank city of Ramallah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet with his U.S. counterpart President Donald Trump in Washington on Monday to discuss Gaza and other issues. They are expected to hold a joint press conference in the afternoon. Netanyahu will be the first foreign leader to meet with Trump since the announcement of tariffs on countries around the world. Whether Netanyahu's visit succeeds in bringing down or eliminating Israel's 17% tariff remains to be seen. Ukraine's President Zelensky lamented the lack of a U.S. response to Russia's refusal to agree a full unconditional ceasefire as 2 people were killed in Moscow's latest aerial bombardment. Zelensky said that Russia mounted a massive missile and drone attack on Ukraine, warning that Moscow was stepping up its aerial attacks. U.S. President Donald Trump, who says he wants to be a peacemaker, had repeatedly said he wants the 3-year conflict in Ukraine to end and has warned of the risks of escalating into a world war between the United States and Russia. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and visiting French counterpart Macron witnessed launch of Egypt-France Business Forum on Sunday. The forum, joined by business community executives and representatives in both countries, will hopefully assert joint cooperation in fields such as localization of the railway industry in Egypt, France's provision of technical and professional training to Egypt, as well as cooperation in artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and green hydrogen generation. Egypt's bourse closed higher today, boosted by French President Emmanuel Macron's important visit. The visit managed to minimize the market's earlier losses to only £4 billion, bringing the market capital of listed companies to £2.1 trillion at the end of the transactions. The benchmark index EGX 30 slightly fell 0.6% above the 30,450 point mark. The equal weighted indices EGX 70 and EGX 100 rose 0.8% and 0.5% respectively. Global market and oil prices collapsed further today as U.S. President Donald Trump stood firm over his tariffs despite recession fears. Hong Kong's drop 13.2% Monday was its worst in nearly 3 decades. Frankfurt dived as much as 10% and Tokyo closed down by almost 8%. Wall Street futures suffered another drubbing, while Bitcoin tumbled while London and Paris both dropped nearly 4% in midday deals. Welcome back. In England, Egypt's Salama Hani claimed the 2025 Manchester Squash Open title. Hani snatched the title through a 3-2 win over defending champion Georgina